Hi, welcome back to Wine and Culture, where we talk about the joys of wines in various cultures. I'm Trudy Hannah of Pie Imports. Join me today as we talk with LaDonna Burns in recognition of Black Music Month. Jimmy Carter designated June African American Music Appreciation Month in 1979. President Biden again proclaimed June Black Music Month in 2023 to honor the African American music legends who are essential parts of our nation's heritage. During Black History Month, we pay homage to legends of American music who have composed the soundtrack of American life. Their creativity has given rise to distinctively American art forms that influence contemporary music worldwide and sing to the soul of the American experience. This month, we celebrate the songs and artists that challenge us to think critically, stand up to injustice, and believe in ourselves. We recommit to expanding the promise of dignity and opportunity for all Americans. And we revel in the sound, spirit, and soul of some of the very best music ever created. In celebration of African American Music Month, I am more than happy to introduce to you another esteemed hero in the musical theater industry, our beloved guest, LaDonna Burns, singer, actress, and currently starring in Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella at the Flat Rock Playhouse. Hello, LaDonna. Thank you for being our great guest for African American Music Month. How's it going?
Hi, Trudy. Thank you for having me. It's going well.
Oh, great. So, just so everyone knows, LaDonna is starring as the Fairy Godmother in the musical of Cinderella, which we African American community know this as the Brandy and Whitney Houston Cinderella. My son and I had the opportunity and the pleasure of going to see the play, and I must say, LaDonna's performance, as well as others in the play, was so awesome and magnificent.
Things are happening every day. Impossible things are happening. It's
LaDonna, how were you cast for this very memorable role as the Fairy Godmother?
Well, I have an agent, and my agent sent me an email like, "Are you interested in this?" It was an audition appointment for Flat Rock Playhouse. They come to New York City every spring audition season. Well, it's actually the winter. Um, with the musical theater performers, we have two audition seasons in New York City, really. We have a winter and a summer, fall one. So starting in around February through March, we are just going from audition to audition, hopefully. And so this is what was happening. It was February. I remembered well because I was just about to start rehearsals for a musical I just closed in New York right before this. And I was at my voice teacher's. I was at a lesson with my voice teacher when I saw the audition and was like, oh no, what am I supposed to sing for this? Because I just saw Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella, and I'm like, oh goodness gracious. So traditional Cinderella is musical theater has very various types of musicals. You have traditional, aka golden age musicals, which are your Rodgers and Hammersteins, all those like Carousel. People would consider Porgy and Bess that kind of musical. And then you have contemporary musicals and pop rock musicals, which are the ones I typically do. So I was freaked out because I said, oh my God, I have to sing. The Fairy Godmother's very operatic in the traditional versions of Cinderella. Even the revival, she's very much a soprano. And I'm just,
Right. Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't have any of this music in my book because I really don't do those kind of shows. I'm more of a contemporary musical theater performer. I love the pop and rock shows that, like
Yes.
Rent,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
because that's the stuff I sing. And so I said, what should I sing? He's like, oh, sing this song. And I was like, I'm not feeling that song. But the thing I kept seeing was it said Enchanted Edition. And I said, well, what is the Enchanted Edition of Cinderella?
Yes.
So I did a deep dive and looked it up and saw that it was the Whitney Houston Brandy version of Cinderella from the 90s. And I was so surprised. I had no idea that version existed to be done on stage. Like, it was a shock to me that
Yeah.
it was
Oh, wow.
licensed. So when I saw that, I went, oh, I know exactly what to sing for this audition. So I went in there with a song from Children of Eden, which is a show about Adam and Eve that I've done before. It's kind of bridges the gap between traditional and contemporary musical theater. So I'm like, well, this will work. It's, it's talking about spark of creation and believing things. And that's what a fairy godmother do. But I also said, I really want to sing If You Believe from The Wiz. Because I think that's totally a godmother type of song.
Yes.
The problem was when I went to get the music, I kept saying, this doesn't sound right. I don't think this is the key that we know when you believe in, like, if you believe. There's so many different names for the title of the song. Believe in yourself.
Right.
And if
right.
you know the Wiz,
I know it. Yes.
Look, it's what Lena Horne sang.
Exactly. Right.
At the end of the movie. And so I'm like, I need it in Lena Horne's key because I'm not trying to sing that loud and high today.
Yes.
And I just happened the day before, a friend of mine's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm heading into town to meet up with a friend of ours who's a music director. We're going to have happy hour. I'm like, oh, I love all these guys. I'm coming. He was playing the Wiz auditions all that week.
Are you serious?
And he's a piano virtuoso. And I was like, an audition that I could not get one at all. So I was just like, man. So I just said, Brian, what key is Believe in Yourself in? And he goes, oh, girl, you need it in the key of blah, blah, blah. And I went home, got it in that key, and took it to the audition. I was just like, thank you.
Next day?
The next day, took it to the audition. I can learn music pretty fast, but also it's a song that I've grown up with.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So I just knew I had to memorize the words, but I knew how the song went. So I get to that audition. I believe my audition was like at probably 11 in the morning, as they do. And I get there and I sing Spark of Creation first from Children of Eden. Right. And they were just like, oh, yay. And Lisa, who is the artistic director here, made the comment, I see what we can add to our season next year. Children of Eden, we found, we got an Eve. And so they're like, do you have anything else? And I'm like, how would you like to hear some Believe in Yourself from the Wiz? They're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yes.
So I sing that and they were just like smiling. And Lisa commented, I could hear you sing all day. What else is in that book? She's like, I'm not gonna take you, but oh my God, thank you so much for coming. So I'm like, great. I left and texted my agent right away and said, ooh, that was a good audition. I got him with that audition. And he was just like, fine. I was like, no, that was a good audition. Sometimes you can feel you're like,
yeah, sometimes you just know. Yeah. I mean,
the next thing I know, I think, God, I think it was the same day. He's like, you have a call back for it. And I'm like, I told you it was a good day. I told you I did well. And so I got a call back for a couple days later and they wanted me to sing the song that's at the end of the show, There's Music in You. I had to sing the end of it.
Yeah.
And also they were doing Still Magnolias before. So I had sides for the character of Trudy in Still Magnolias, which is funny because I had just done a video submission for another production of Still Magnolias for the same character. So I'm like, well,
Oh, this is making this easy for me.
Must be the season.
Right.
And I went in there and my friend met me. He was just like, I want to hear this audition because I'm like, I'm about to show out. I watched the Whitney Brandy version the night before because
Yes.
I don't think I'd seen it since it came out.
Yeah, back in the 90s. Yeah.
So I'm like, let me look at this real quick. I walk in there and start singing. I did the sides for the show first, and then I did that. And I sang that, and they were just like, oh. Because I said to the piano player, I'm like, just vamp. I'm not going to sing it like it's written. Just follow me. And he's like, right. Okay. And he was just like, okay. And Chris, who's the director, looked at me and said, LaDonna, Whitney walked so you could fly.
Oh, isn't it? Oh my gosh.
And look, I was a huge Whitney Houston fan, so I was just like, oh, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Then I did some of the scenes and he gave me some direction and that was it. And we walked out and I was just like, that felt good. My friend's like, oh no, you were in there singing. No, right. You did that. I was just like, okay.
How we say in the Black community, you was in there hollering.
Hollering. Oh, you was in there and hollering. Another friend of mine was there also for the Fairy Godmother and she went before me. And she went in there because she didn't know which version it was.
Yes. Yes.
Because she just went, everyone's doing Cinderella right now, honestly. It's being done everywhere. And so
she out of school, is family friendly. Yeah.
It's easy. People know Cinderella. It has a name. You know, when you have shows that have some type of cultural reference, people will be more likely to see it.
To see it, right.
Especially in smaller markets.
Yes.
And so she had just left another audition and they were doing the revival version. So she's like giving him her best opera. So she does that for this one. And I said, all right, girl. And she's just like, so I go in, I come back out. She's just like, nobody. She goes, wait a minute. Is that the version of Cinderella? I said, yes, the Whitney one. She's like,
man, I know.
Version. I'm like, do your research, honey. You got to look it up. And so maybe a week later, if that long, my agent called me and he's like, call me when you get this. And I was in rehearsals by that time for the show I was currently in. And he was just like, you got Cinderella. He's like, I think this would be a good move for you. A nice lead role. He's like, because the past 2 years I've been doing a lot of understudying and offstage cover work, standby work, which is even harder work than actually being on stage. We can talk about
because you never know when you're going to get called.
Or if you ever will.
Ever will, right.
Yeah, you prepare a show and a character and there's a chance you never get to do it, which is crazy. And so he's like, you need this one. And I'm like, you're right. So let's do it.
Let's do it.
And I was praying because I just closed a show in New York City and our closing date was May 21st. And the starting date of Cinderella was May 22nd.
Wow. Yeah. But
there was talk of them extending the other show until like June 9th. And I was just like, I don't know what y'all gonna do. I'm not gonna be there.
Right.
I'm just sitting here collecting dust when I can be a star on stage somewhere, being Fairy Godmother. And I was like, but the good Lord made it that I didn't have to burn that bridge, thank God. And they closed the show and didn't extend it. And I was just like, yay. Now I get to go do what I want to do.
Right.
So
exactly.
It worked out.
Nice. That's I love hearing that story. I've just so everyone know I've heard it before. So every time I hear it, I'm still all giggled about it. So I just so I can let everyone know, for those who are watching, I met LaDonna on a trip last year while I was in Lisbon, Portugal. It was early in the morning, therefore I hadn't had opportunity to share with LaDonna any of the excellent finds that I had of wine in Portugal. So with that being said, I gifted LaDonna one of her favorite fairy tales, which are rosés. So During this show, we will be tasting the Domaine Maby that comes from the Rhone Valley of France, more specifically in La Croix. Their TAVEL. So I want to say just cheers to LaDonna for a great
There we
show.
go.
Awesome,
Woo.
awesome, awesome. So we featured this actually this I love the smell of the ripe berries and the grapes. Very spicy. I just really love this wine. And ooh, and also, gives a very much of a very floral scent. Don't you think so,
She
LaDonna?
is quite spicy. I love it.
Yes, yes. And and just so y'all know, today I'm pairing it with some almonds. Because like I said, it's still early for us. I know LaDonna has some shows that she has to do for the remaining of the day, correct?
I have some fruit.
Nice,
Get this
nice.
lovely fruit salad that I bought at the store.
I love fruit. I very much love fruit with the Tavel. The Tavel, you can pair it with pretty much anything. I call it like my hodgepodge wine because if you notice from the color, it's a lot darker than what you'll find with most rosés.
Yes.
A lot richer, a little heavier. So it's not like that pale rosé, but more of that in between a white and a red, and it just blends very well. So, you know, enjoy. Oh, and also recommend that you do chill it before you sip it. It's a nice chill wine, nice for a summer day.
My
So,
wine has been sitting in my fridge for the past weekend. I let it get extra chilled.
oh, good for you. Good for you. You mean to tell me so after this you're going to indulge in it before, after you come back from your shows, right? In the
I
evening.
actually, thank God I don't have a show tonight.
Oh, nice, nice.
But I do have an audition that I have to put on tape
Uh,
when I get done with this. And so that's what my next part of the day. And then I just got a text about working on a script with someone. So I'm just like, so I won't have to be getting on the stage, but I'll still be working.
exactly, exactly. Well, you have the Tavel that you can sip on while
That's
while
right.
you work and play. So, LaDonna, do you mind telling us about your background and your experience in theater? I know your background that I found very interesting. And I just want to let the viewers know that LaDonna actually has a background in science. So that was one of the things that was so cool about her when I met, that she has a background in science. She does theater. I have a background in science. I used to do theater. I'm not doing it now because my knees all messed up, but I'm trying to get back there, girl. I'm trying to get back there. So yeah, LaDonna, if you would tell our viewers a little bit about your background and your experience in theater.
Well, I went to school. I graduated from Michigan State with a degree in microbiology because my plan was to become a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And I started the process after leaving Michigan State at Indiana University, Purdue University in Indianapolis of medical school. And I just remember going to anatomy class and going through the paces and the professors being like, you must eat, sleep, and drink medicine and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, and I just felt I usually have a generally positive attitude and a general optimistic nature. And I just felt like my personality was changing. I was just like,
Yeah.
this is ridiculous. This is miserable. I'll never forget. I worked for a doctor one summer while I was at Michigan State. And she pulled me into her office and she's like, so you really want to do this? I'm like, yeah, of course. I always wanted to do this. I was in high school, said, I'm going to be a neurosurgeon. I was that person. And she's just like, let me just tell you about medicine though. Every doctor has some kind of, they have something that they're addicted to. There's an addiction.
Yeah.
Be it food, alcohol, drugs, sex. There's some addiction that you have to have so you can deal with what you deal with all the time. And I was like,
What girl? What are you talking about?
what are you
Yeah.
talking about? And the crazy thing was there was another doctor that she would come into her practice that she had to give a drug test to.
Yeah. I heard stories about this before. Yeah.
And my job that summer, I had to go with this doctor who I knew of and watch her do a urine test to make sure it was her urine.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, okay. And I don't know. It was just, I just was not feeling it. And I'm like, I don't think I could do this my whole life.
Yes.
And at the same time, I saw an audition for Dreamgirls. Now, I love Dreamgirls.
I was like looking at you smiling, like, oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, they were doing Dreamgirls in Indianapolis. And I'm like, I should go audition. Now, what I didn't tell you was in college, while I was doing microbiology, I first joined, there was a choir at the school, the state singers that I joined when I first got there, because I've always done something like, I was in show
Artistic.
choir.
Yes.
Yeah, I was in show choir in high school and I did the fall musical. So I always had some type of foot in the artistic world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they want you to be well-rounded anyway. So
and then a lot of people don't understand that art and science really go hand in hand. That's why they hone the term STEAM now, but it goes hand in hand. So I get it.
And so I always had something, and to then be put in a position where you had nothing. In college, I quit the choir because I didn't think they were that great. It was hard coming because my choir in high school was the top choir in the state of Indiana. Every year I was in it. So then I went to this other choir. I'm like, y'all, you're not good.
Yeah.
So I quit the choir. So then I had nothing except my science classes. And let me tell you, microbiology is not the class you have to take.
Yeah.
There's nothing that fun about that.
Well, I love microbiology, but go ahead. I do
too. I love science, but I was just like, I need to do something.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Well, funny that you make that, because in college I doubled majoring in biology and dance, so I get what you're saying.
See,
I know what you're saying.
You fixed it.
I fixed, yes.
I was originally a biochemistry was my first major.
Yes.
And I changed it when I found out I had to take another year of PChem. Because
yes.
I was in physical chemistry. It was like, oh no.
No. Yeah.
I hated physics.
It's drooling.
I took physics and I went to a really great high school, North Central High School in Indianapolis, and they had really good like educational programs, accelerated stuff. So I took physics in high school.
Right.
And I was just like, I got to college and said, PChem, you mean you're going to combine physics and chemistry? Oh, God.
Y'all are just, they're Satan, aren't they?
I know. I was just like, oh. So I saw an ad in the state news for a band, and they were looking for a backup singer. And I'm like, let me go. And I did it and ended up booking it. So I sang with this band like the rest of my years at Michigan State until I quit, because they were annoying me.
It was a band. I mean,
it was me and was it six white men.
A cover band, LaDonna?
No, they had original music.
Really?
Covers. And the band was called Solstice. And I'll never forget, and it was spelled SOULSTICE. Okay. So I'll never forget the day I quit. And I said, you better change your name because the soul has just left Solstice.
Right.
I'm friends with those guys now. But
of course.
But I did the band, so all my friends would come and see me in the band, and I was an RA in college. And so I get out of college and I'm starting this medical thing, and they're like, this is all you can do. And I'm just like, I was miserable. So I auditioned for Dreamgirls and ended up getting cast in the show.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I had to make a decision because I'm like, I can't do this in school. So I quit school.
Mm-hmm.
You could understand that my family was not happy with
Of
that.
course they weren't. No.
And lots of arguments happened. And but the thing I had was, I said, look, it's not like you waste money on me, because I had a full ride to college.
Right, exactly. Right.
So my parents did not have to drop a dime on my college education.
Nice. And
I got my degree. So I was like,
exactly. So there you go.
I did it. So it was time for me. And that was a hard decision to make. To decide to do. And then they're like, oh, why do you want to do this? This is so unstable. And my father did not like New York. He thought,
Right.
he's from Mississippi. He thought New York was Satan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All the heathens gonna come up and just grab his baby girl
And
and
drugs and
descend,
all
drag her to the
stuff.
death. Yeah, child.
Yeah, and so I was
damnation.
like, I'm like, I'll be all right. But I get it. I mean, he was from Mississippi. Growing up when he did, he's like, everything I see about celebrities, they're all messed up in some kind of way. So I get why he would not want me to do that. So I tried out for Dreamgirls, got it, and was like, and quit school, and just then stayed in Indianapolis and took some jobs, worked for a temp agency.
Yeah.
I had the uncanny ability of starting any job, and when I go into a job, people want to keep me forever.
Yeah.
And then promote me to like some type of management.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm not trying to do this forever. So I worked for a mortgage company. Could not get a job in a lab because, as you probably know, they're like, oh, what experience do you have? And you're
exactly.
like, what about these 4 years I just spent?
It's been finished. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And these 2 summer internships I did at Eli Lilly Pharmaceuticals, those don't count? Okay.
Right, exactly.
And so I ended up in a mortgage company, and then a friend of mine who was also in the medical program that I quit, she was like, hey, my sister works for the state house, the Indiana House of Representatives. Right. She's leaving. Are you interested? And I'm like, politics? Okay. And
if that's not the biggest musical theater, I don't know what is, right?
And I went down there and got interviewed and got the job. And that's how I spent 4 years working for the Indiana House of Representatives as a legislative assistant.
Wow.
Had no idea that this was a job that people go to school for.
Right.
Like all my other like coworkers all have political science degrees. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Highly competitive, and here I come with my
studies. Thank you.
My microbiology degree, just waltzing in like,
hey, how y'all doing? Like, I just did Dreamgirls.
That's exactly how it happened. They were just like, and then I started auditioning for shows around Indianapolis, and started to get to be known in the Indianapolis theater community.
Right.
By the time it was over, I was working at the State House during the day and part of the company at the American Cabaret Theater of Indianapolis, which did our rehearsals at night. So I was doing double duty then.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was just like, I have to do more than this. I'm not gonna be happy working this day job and then busting my butt at night doing these shows. And Rent happened. Rent was the first.
I'm sorry.
Rent was the first show that did. This was in.
This was Rent in Indianapolis or Rent in New York?
On Broadway in New York. Opened. Yes, it opened in 1996.
Yeah,
and I remember watching the Tonys when it was nominated and was like,
yeah, they did
what
this?
This show? Oh my God, I want to do this show. And the good friend of mine who I'd been doing theater with in Indianapolis, we were doing Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. And he had a friend, his best friend was Heather Headley. They went to high
She's from
school.
Indianapolis.
She's from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
But they
You
went
know,
to
I
high
used to
school
live in
together.
Indiana, child.
Oh, see, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
they were in
yeah.
show choir together.
Oh,
so,
get out of here. Okay. Okay.
And this was when she, I believe, Lion King.
Yep, she
It
did
just
Lion
hit
King
with Lion
early.
King.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so he would always be, well, Heather told me to do this. And Heather's like, I need to move there. And so he was getting ready to. And we found out that Rent was going around the country looking for people, because the thing about Rent was it was the first major musical that was a pop rock score.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't want people coming in singing musical theater songs. They wanted legitimate, like, rock singers, soul singers, gospel singers. So they went out into the world looking for random people. They didn't want these Broadway people, because they didn't know how to sing the music.
Exactly.
And so they went across country looking for people.
Nice.
And I saw that they were going to be in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And so my friend Jamarcus, God rest his soul, he's no longer with us, Jamarcus and our friend Gina, we were all doing Best Little Whorehouse together.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And we were like, we should go and audition in Cleveland, because that was the closest one, I guess, to Indianapolis.
You're right.
Cleveland is not close.
It's not. It's about 2 or 3 hour drive.
Shoot, it's more. It's about, that's a good 4 or 5 hour drive.
Oh, really? Okay,
I
gotcha.
So yeah, okay. Because Michigan State was like a 4 hour drive. And Cleveland, you got to go over a little bit more. And so I was like, well, I'll drive. I'll never forget. I called in sick to work that day. And we drove up there, and we were just like, oh, we'll do this, and then we'll just drive back that night. Waited, the line was around the block.
Around the block, it always is, yes.
This is before American Idol came out.
Right. Oh, girl, yeah.
So this was American Idol stuff before American Idol. Exactly. It was like that.
And we weren't on the internet. All that stuff wasn't on the internet either yet.
No cell phones, like like that. No smartphones. And so you
went with a photo in your hand.
We had triptychs from AAA. I would get the, because you had to have a physical map. There was no GPS.
Yeah.
And my friends navigated, and we got there and waited in line around the block, and hours. Probably 12 hours.
Yep.
And go into this little room, and what did I sing? Probably Think or Respect or something.
Okay. And
they had you singing a cappella, and her name was Heidi Marshall. She was a casting, and she's like, oh, okay, great. We'd like you to come back tomorrow and sing this music from the show. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I wasn't expecting that.
Now, by this point, the soundtrack had been out. This was after the Tonys, and I was obsessed with the soundtrack. I had it memorized, so I kind of knew the songs they gave me. And both of my friends also got callbacks.
Wow, nice.
So we all had to stay, and so the next morning I'm like, I'm still sick, I'm not coming. Calling into work. And we went through our callbacks, and then got on the road and went back to Indianapolis. My friend Gina ended up getting more callbacks from that one. And I was just like, oh, I've got to do this now. And
it's a rush from it.
Right. My friend Jamarcus was like, we got to move to New York now. He's like, we can't keep playing around in Indianapolis. It's small potatoes. We got to go to New York.
Yeah.
So then the decision was, do I go to New York or Chicago? Because Chicago is closer. I mean, I could get to Chicago easier. And I had so many people like, you should go to Chicago. New York is too big. You're already a big fish in a small pond here, because by this point, I had a name in Indianapolis.
Of course.
As a performer. And they're like, oh, why? Just stay here. You can be a star here. And I'm like, I don't want to just do this.
Yeah.
I can't make a living here. And this is, it's not fulfilling. And it's always the same. You don't get to do new things, really. And so I made the decision, I'm moving to New York. Because by then, my friend Jamarcus had moved to New York.
Right.
And he's sending me audition notes. He's like, see, you could go in for this. Here's an agent. This is what you have to do, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of the people I'm doing musicals with in Indianapolis had also moved to New York. because they were all musical theater kids and stuff, and they had
Yeah,
made the
yeah.
move. And so I was just talking to friends, and I'm like, I really want to move. And my friend Hillary was just like, hey, girl, this girl I'm doing a show with is going to be subletting her apartment in Harlem for 3 months.
Perfect.
Because
Perfect.
she's going to be working
Perfect.
in Martha's Vineyard for the summer. She's looking for someone to sublease her
Yeah.
apartment. Why you should do it? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then she's like, come on, just do it. Meanwhile, the local critic in Indianapolis, who did not like me at first and kept comparing me to the other Black woman in town.
Right.
She's no such and such. And I'm like, of course I'm not, because I know my words and I remember them.
Right.
She had put in the paper that I was moving to New York. And I had found out about this from our media guy at the State House. He called me. He's like, hey, LaDonna, I see you're moving to New York. I said, what are you talking about? He's like, it's in the paper. I said, it's in the paper.
That was our Facebook back then. So
it was. And so she put me on blast in the newspaper. And I was just like,
no, she didn't.
I guess I'm going to have to
exactly
go. And so my friend Hillary is like, there's this place, just say yes. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I almost got on a bus to go to New York just to see the place, to see because I'm thinking, ooh, Harlem. Oh, you know how what the TV and the movies show you.
Right.
You're
yeah.
Like, I'm a girl from Indianapolis. Can I be in Harlem? Oh no. And she's like, don't come here, just look at the apartment. I'll go look at it. And she's like, I'm a bougie Black woman. If I can live in this apartment, Harlem, you can.
Yeah.
And she went, and she's like, oh, you'll be fine. It's great. And I went and gave my notice at the State House, went to the chief of staff and said, hey, I'm going to be leaving. He was like, we were waiting for this.
After we saw that blast that you had moved to New York.
And one of the representatives who I'm still very close with, Greg Porter, he's still a State House representative. He saw me in a couple of shows. He would come see my shows and he goes, I'm gonna lose you. He's like, he goes, you're too good to just stay here. You're going to end up going to New York.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna lose you. And he was just like, I knew it, but he still supports me. Every time I go home, I try and see him, and he's seen me in doing national tours and stuff. And he's like, I told you.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I ended up I put my notice in because it was State House. I had all this comp time from the session work. So I put my notice in and had a month of paid vacation time to use.
Yeah.
So my first month in New York was funded by the State House of Indiana. And I moved there and that was 22 years ago.
Nice.
Memorial Day weekend is the day I packed my bags, got on a plane, and flew to New York City into that apartment in Harlem.
Wow. LaDonna, thanks for sharing that. And the reason why I wanted you to share that is because, a lot of viewers, when I talk to a lot of people about being in the arts and going to school and getting an education, and these kids these days are like, oh no, I can't, I have to do what I'm passionate about, which is great. Nobody's taking that away from them,
right?
But it's also about that having something to fall back on. And what you said about having that 4 years at the State House, it gave you the opportunity to do the thing that you really wanted to do.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a buzz, so I'm always trying to emphasize that to individuals that, you can still go to college and get a degree, get a STEM degree and come out and do what you really want to do. It's not going anywhere. Just take that time for yourself and make yourself as flexible and as well-rounded as you possibly can be.
Yeah, because I didn't even I worked for 10 years for the Fair Housing Justice Center in New York City.
Exactly,
And I
right.
got that job because of my state
So it's
house.
a state house job, exactly.
It's because I had that experience dealing with constituents, and they were just like,
Right,
oh,
right.
and they
Mhm.
tried to make me the deputy director. I finally had to quit there in like 2018
Right.
because I said I did not move to New York to work here.
Right, right.
Because and they were, I will always love that place because Fred, who was running the place,
Mhm.
allowed me to go off several times to go do a show for a couple months here and there.
Yeah.
And so when I finally
Well, it's the
did it,
government. I mean, like, God, where is it going, really?
well, this one isn't even the government. This was a non-for-profit, so it was even
Oh, okay.
harder. And
Yeah.
I went through a point where there was only 5 of us working there. Like we
Right.
went through the
Mhm.
hard times and stuff, and I just I love Fred to death, and he was just like, I knew this day was gonna come. I knew it
Yeah,
was gonna come.
yeah.
But I appreciate him because when I finally the biggest role I've ever had in my life was for the show Caroline or Change. And
Mm.
it's such a great show. If you ever see it
No, I
anywhere
haven't seen
nearby,
that one. Yeah,
go
I'll
see
check it
it.
out. Okay.
It's a show about a maid in Louisiana
Mhm.
who is her relationship with this little Jewish boy
Okay.
whose mother has passed away. So he attaches himself to Caroline.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But it's this whole show about how she navigates that because this is in 1963.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
And I first saw the show, I was on a break from, I think, from Rent because, oh, yes,
Mhm.
spoiler alert, I ended up booking Rent. It took 7 years and a bunch of auditions, but I did eventually book the
You
national
did
tour
it.
for Rent. I
Okay. Yeah.
did get Rent.
Uh-huh.
So that's another thing, viewers. You got to keep going. So, yes, if
Right.
you have your mind on something, keep going. It took me 7 years to book that show.
Uh,
And I saw Carolina Change on Broadway, and I remember sitting in the front row and was like,
yeah.
I have to do this show.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up doing the show and playing Caroline in 2019.
Oh, oh, you serious?
Yeah, in New York, in Queen. And so
Uh-huh.
my opening day, I'm leaving the theater on a break because my family was coming to see it. My
Yeah.
family drove from Indianapolis, and I walk out, and it's Fred and his wife, my old boss from the Fair Housing Justice
Oh
Center.
my God, yes,
Show
in
came and
Indianapolis.
surprised me
Yes.
and saw the show, and he had tears in his eyes. And
Oh, oh my God.
he's like, oh, I
Oh,
knew you could sing because I sang at their they had a 10-year anniversary, and I sang. It was at the Apollo, and
right. Uh-huh.
I put a band together and sang was the entertainment for the award ceremony. And so he
Mhm.
knew I could sing, but
Right.
they had no idea what
When
I
you're
was
on
doing that.
stage is different. It's when you're on those, yeah,
And
yeah,
being a character, and
yeah,
Carolina Change is like 2.5 hours, and I
yeah.
barely leave the stage the whole time. So
Right.
he's
Gotcha.
like, oh, no, you really
You,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So it's just been a career of that happening and people going, I'm fortunate and blessed enough to always find really great bosses that are like, this is weird. This girl is weird.
Yeah.
She's working here, but still doing this at night and trying to do this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she's good at what she does. So she
Ooh.
probably is good at that too.
It's
So
going to get that too.
let
Right.
me just go to
Why,
some
who am
more.
I to get in her way? Right.
Right. And so
Mhm.
thankfully, since then, I have just been full time
Mhm.
working as a performer or a teacher because I also started teaching
Okay.
at
Mhm.
conservatories for musical theater majors.
Nice. Nice. With a background in microbiology.
That which is
Mhm.
the crazy part
It says, yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm like always like, how are they going to hire me? And because I didn't go to any of these major conservatories because
Yeah.
getting into theater is really crazy. It is very much who you know,
Uh-huh.
where you went, what your connections are,
Especially in
and
New York. I realized
oh
that when I was up there dancing. It was like,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And so the career I have built has been all on people knowing me and
Yeah.
my reputation.
Mhm.
Up until this point, I just got my first agent in August last year. So everything that I've done up until that point was all on my own.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, and through my connections, and
Yeah.
it's a different world now because, as I said, I have an audition I got to do as soon as I get off of this that I have to send to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're on fire," and it's amazing what happens when you have someone now that who's fighting for you.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
He's earning his money. Because I will be like, I can't do this date. Can you see if I can get out of that? And he's like, yep, let me go.
Right, right. It's like your own little secretary or your
Yeah, he's
theater
doing it.
secretary. Yeah.
And he's on the same page as I am on. Like, he's like, I think you need to do this kind of job, but we'll take this one because that's going to be look good on your resume and look who you connect with. And we think alike. And so it's been a different world. Like, he keeps me busy.
Nice.
Like,
nice.
I travel with the setup in Portugal.
Yeah.
I think I did 3 auditions
Yeah,
that
you
month.
had told me you would say, "Sure, I gotta get ready to go do an audition," and
Yeah.
'cause I think I was leaving like the next day or something like that, and yeah,
Yeah. I set up a ring light, and I got a call back for one of those auditions.
right, right,
Like, they were interested, and I ended up not even getting to go to the callback because I booked the show I just did in New York. But yeah, I was like, I can't ever travel without some type of setup because I
You
will
never
get an audition.
know if you're gonna get called.
I will definitely get a call while I'm away.
Gotcha.
It's the nature of the business,
Exactly. Well, awesome. So, LaDonna, I want to share this piece of information with you. So, there's always been an issue of equal representation of Blacks in the US, and it has long been a standing issue in this country. And unfortunately, we all know the theater is not exempt for that. The issue of inequality, the lack of representations of Blacks.
Right.
On Broadway, representation for Black performers has improved as they account for like 29% of the roles between 2018 and 2019 season. And according to the AAPAC, but Latino representation has dropped from 6% to 4.8%. And the Asian representation is like pretty non-existent. With that being said, how has your experience been for you, or what are your thoughts with this being African American Music Month? Your thoughts on the presence of African Americans in musical theater?
There is room for improvement. The problem is that now because you brought up for Latinos and Asian Americans, a lot of times when people want to diversify, they're like, we just got to add Black people. Which you think would be great for me, but still, even with that, whenever they say we have to add Black people, they want to add Black people that look like white people.
Right.
So it has really done nothing for me.
Exactly.
It's so weird. It's not even just that. It's also size, inclusivity. It's all about sizes too. That's another part of it. My career has been so crazy, and why I took that 10-year break to work at the Fair Housing Justice Center, because I got to a point where I was told to my face that I was not skinny enough for one part, but I wasn't big enough for another part. And I was too young looking for another part and too old looking for another part. They were like, your voice is amazing, you're perfect, but you don't fit any of the parts. And it took a long time. And I had a director tell me, gosh, she told me that, let's see, my father has been gone. He died 16 years ago. It was that year.
I'm sorry to hear that.
16 years goes. And my best friend, Jim Marcus, who I was talking about, died like 6 months before that.
Oh, wow.
They're my angels, though.
Yeah.
But she looked at me and she said, you're going to have a hard career. And I said, why? And she's just like, you're very talented, but they don't see you yet. And I'm like, what do you mean they don't see me? She's like, you're going to have to age into it. And she brought up this white actress. She's like, she couldn't get hired at all. So she wrote her own show. So maybe you should write your own show.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
I've been told that I just don't have the right spirit. I do, but I just need to work on.
Yeah, that's homework, you know.
It's coming in time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never liked to do a lot. I don't like to rehearse. My boyfriend thinks it's hilarious. He's like, you don't practice.
Uh-huh.
You don't practice. You don't go to lessons. And I'm like, I know I should probably go to voice lessons once a month.
Mhm.
And it's because music has always come easy to me when I'm
Right,
singing.
exactly.
I
Mhm.
also took piano lessons growing up and hated it because I did not like to practice.
Right. Mhm.
And so she looked at me and she said, I just need you to hang in there because you're going to have a great career, but it's going to come when you're older. Because they don't know what to do with you right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I had made the mistake because we have an actors union,
Uh-huh.
actors equity. And I joined the union because I was tired of touring and having the conditions weren't bad, but knowing you should be getting paid more than you
Exactly.
are.
Right. Mhm.
So once I joined the union, I could not get jobs for anything because I was then in direct competition with all these Broadway actors and stuff
Oh, yeah.
who
Mhm.
actually look the age.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times on the non-union tours, you have people and they'll like cast people that are a little younger, but they can age them up a little bit. But then if you
Yeah,
actually have people of that age, they're gonna get the
they get
job.
the jobs if they're in the
Um,
union. Right.
yeah. And so it really took some time because and then once my father died, I'm like, should I even be doing this?
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
I missed so much time with him, and I had a great friend call. He was like, look, the reason you haven't hit yet, he's like, he said, the angels haven't made the costumes that are good enough to fit you. And
Oh,
I'm like, oh. And he's like, you are not meant to replace anyone. You are a person that they will have to create a role for. You're not a replacement. You're not someone's
right,
replacement.
right,
He's like, you're just, and he's like, and you're no one's background.
right.
You're
Mhm.
not chorus, you're not ensemble. And I'm like, I could be ensemble. He's like,
Mhm.
damn, you light up a room when you come in. You're not ensemble. And I
Mhm.
was like, but it's very strange. My type of person, we're not really in the ensemble much. Ensemble usually is, especially now, there used to be singing ensembles and a dancing. There was a singer chorus and a dancer chorus. Like
Mhm.
in the Wiz, the original Wiz, they had pit singers.
Right. Mhm.
Because it's you know the Wiz because the Wiz is very dance heavy.
It's very dance
Most
heavy. Yeah.
most of the people on stage, if you're not like Aunt
You
M
can't
or
you
Glenda,
can't sing and dance as hard as they were dancing. No, you
no, and unless you're one of the
mhm.
main characters, you're dancing.
Exactly.
So they had pit singers who sang in the pit to help boost up. They don't really do that anymore, and that's what
Right.
this new is. They're like it's going to be dance heavy too, but I think they have some pit singers too. I'm trying to get into that. Say a prayer, baby.
I got
But
you. Ah.
okay, but like they don't do that anymore. Like
Mhm.
we barely have orchestras in theater on
Yeah.
Broadway. That was
Right.
just a big thing now with Here Lies Love, which I am so happy for. It's the first all Filipino musical.
Oh,
It just
wow.
started previews. My former roommate is in it, and I'm so happy for her.
Nice.
But
Okay.
there was a big controversy because they weren't going to use live musicians because it takes place in a disco. So they were like, they fixed it and worked it out, and they started previews last weekend. But
Yeah,
and it was a hard thing because you're like, I want to be there for my friends because I know a lot of people in it because of her. But
exactly.
we need live musicians. That's what makes musical
And
theater,
that's what
live
makes it
music.
exactly right.
And if you start allowing that on Broadway,
Mhm.
what are these theaters like where I am gonna start? They just gonna start doing a track tape. And I've done a show using just two.
Attractive.
It's the worst thing. I hate it
It doesn't, yeah.
because there's no room for what if you forget, like miss a note or you
Yeah.
catch the beginning of a song when there's not someone there that's
Yeah.
actually conducting. You're screwed. It gives you no room for like singing a song
Mhm.
different.
And it takes the creativity out of it.
It does because you have to time
Mm.
how long you hold the note the same every time.
Every
It
time. Yeah.
when they recorded it, that was at the beginning of the run when
Exactly.
You didn't have your stamina up.
Thank you. Exactly.
You didn't know how the audience was going to respond. And so, like, so now there are definitely more roles for, I'm going to talk about Black people because that's my experience, but still not a lot of roles for me.
Right.
As a Black woman that looks like I do at my age and everything. And also, they just don't know what to do with Black women. I've been getting a lot of roles.
They love the way, and you know, it's funny that you say that because I was watching, someone had this YouTube channel. They were talking about Haley Bailey.
Oh yeah.
And they were talking about her voice and how, oh, that doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like the original. And when I listen to it, every time I hear this young woman sing, and it's so interesting because she danced at the company I danced with, Ballet Ethnic here in Atlanta. And every time I hear this girl sings, it's like I can hear the musical theater. I can hear singing in the gospel choir.
Yeah.
I can hear her influences from Chaka Khan, Whitney Houston, you know, and Beyonce, and the list go. It's all kind of intertwined. And it speaks to me so much. I can just listen to her sing all day, even her sister. But it goes back to what you're saying. They can't put us in a category because they hear our voices and they're like, okay, because, you know, they always got to count and measure. And they hear our voices and they see us move and they're like, where do we put that? How do we quantitate that? And there's no way of them to quantitatively put it in a place.
Yeah, I have a lot of successful friends, but I always say, well, they have a Black voice that is palatable to the white ear.
Yeah, right.
Even with like Motown, the cast choices of that, I'm like, did y'all ever see what the women really look like?
Back then?
In Motown back then?
Back then. They were hefty women.
They were shaped like me.
Yeah.
They were shaped.
They were, yeah.
They weren't these.
How we call it, stout.
Yeah, they were stacked.
Yeah.
So it was just like, they weren't these
talk wispy, about a brick house.
Yeah, they weren't these wispy little dancers because they weren't the European ideal of what beauty is, which musical theater is very much like the white body. This is what a body that books looks like. For musical theater, if you're a Black woman, you either have to be skinny with traditional like European features to be considered the ingenue. So almost like a white woman just dipped in chocolate.
Right.
And if you're not her, they want you to be big like the Maby.
Exactly. Yeah.
Best friend, big woman, preferably dark skin. And then you look at me and I'm like, well, I'm not light enough and I'm also not dark enough. They're like, we don't know what.
And you ain't mammy enough.
I'm definitely not that.
Definitely ain't mammy enough.
And it took me a long time to figure out, I just have to start going in as myself. And that's why I like the pop rock shows, because there's so many new shows being developed. When they're developing a show, and if you can get in the show, they start to develop the role around you. So I go to as many auditions of new shows because I want them to fall in love with me and then be like,
well, we can rewrite this. Yeah.
Yes, because I know I'm sexy.
Right. Well, it was like at just show that you're currently doing, Cinderella and Enchanted, that the director said, "Ooh, I was so excited once I saw her in that gold outfit." I was like, "Oh my God!" I mean, because it was like he knew you would fit the look,
and using my real hair,
using your real hair. Yes, y'all, she used her real hair, the natural hair.
The Fairy Godmother has micro locks.
That's right.
It is not wig.
Yes.
Like, and for a theater here to be that progressive, I was just like, wow. Well,
it's funny that you say that, because that kind of leads into my next question, and you kind of piggyback on it in the first question. Everyone who's casting a lead is a brown or Black person. The Cinderella is Black.
Cinderella's Black.
The Prince he's Puerto Rican. He's Puerto Rican Black.
Yeah.
Sorry, Puerto Ricans, but well, not really sorry. It's how kind of how you mean. Anyway, I
Yeah.
digress. You being the fairy godmother, I mean, it's like, and for this to be in Flat Rock, North Carolina. If everybody know what Flat Rock, North Carolina is, I'm from South Carolina. On the way coming back, I stopped and bought peaches in South Carolina.
Oh, you got some peaches
Oh
along the way.
yeah, and I made this amazing peach cobbler. My son was like, "Mom," that's all he could say was "Mom." I was like, "Look, I'm a Southern girl. I nearly cried when I saw those peaches because I haven't seen South Carolina peaches in so long." But anyway, my point being is that you go through South Carolina into North Carolina, drop back down to South Carolina, and go over into North Carolina. So you're up in like the northern part of North Carolina or South Carolina, where it hits the Blue Ridge Mountains of
Blue
North
Ridge
Carolina.
Mountains. Yep.
So y'all ain't no black people up there. So I applaud this director.
Trudy, I found the black people.
Where are you did?
You'll love
Did
it.
they look at you and be like, "Oh"?
Wait, no, Friday I was like, ooh, I want some soul food. So I went to Google and was like, there's got to be somebody making some soul food.
Right.
And there was one restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
I decided to go. I went Friday. I went by myself and it's a buffet. So I was like sitting there eating and the waitress comes up to me and she's like, "Excuse me, are you new here? Did you just move here?" And I went, "Oh no, I'm working at the theater." And she went, "Oh, you're working at the Playhouse?" I said, "Yeah, we're doing Cinderella. I'm Fairy Godmother." She's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, and Cinderella's black too." And she's like, "What?" I gotta go tell my aunt. Went to the kitchen, brought her out. She's like, "I own this restaurant. Did you just say you're at Flat Rock Playhouse?" I said, "Yes, I am. Yes, ma'am."
Yes.
And she's just like, she goes, "When I was younger, we tried to go there and they didn't let black people in."
Now, mind you,
This is new management though, so viewers don't be like, "Oh, I'm not going there," because I'm here working.
I mean, I went to see it. I mean, my son and I were the only two black people in there, black and brown people in there.
That's
but
the
we
thing.
went.
I'm shocked because I'm like, it's Cinderella. There's a black girl Cinderella's on the poster, and we're kind of like, is that why no one's coming?
Oh.
And so I was talking to them, and there were other people there eating, and each one came to my table, and
you were a star.
We exchanged numbers, and I even went back to the box office and got, because they're like, "Do you have a flyer or poster? We'll put it in the window." I went back and went right back there and took it back to them, gave them the box office manager, because she was just like, "You said they don't know." I'm like, "No, because I don't know where you're advertising it, but the way to get black people in the seats is you have to go to the churches."
Exactly.
That is where all advertising for any arts,
right?
That is where we get our information, because that's a holdover from slavery.
Exactly. Especially up there.
Especially in the South.
Especially in the South.
Yeah,
and so they know that. They know that. They know.
I don't know. I don't think the marketing person, because if you
girl, LaDonna, trust. They know that. Because let me tell you, when I walked in, and like I said, nothing against the theater, they were great. Nothing against it. And they were very welcoming to my son and I. But then again, he and I moved through those type of spaces all the time.
Yeah.
With me being in the theater. But when I arrived with him, they were like, because I had your gift, they're like, "Oh, well, you must know someone here." Well, yeah. And it was, they're going to be very happy. I don't know if they wanted me to tell them, "Well, yeah, I know such and such and such and such." But like I said, I lived in New York. I know I need to be giving up all my business. And even when we were sitting, it was like the show you all put on was so, I don't want to say Afrocentric, but it was very culturally diverse. And the audience was clapping. I mean, they enjoyed it. It was a great professional show, very clean. It just gave, and not saying that it wouldn't,
but you never know.
But you never know, especially being up in North Carolina, girl. Now in Atlanta, I would expect that, but in North Carolina, but it was just a very nice, well put together show. And it wasn't so, stiff.
Yeah.
It's not stiff at all. And it's a lot like the 1990s Whitney and Brandy's.
Mm-hmm. And I applaud them for even deciding to do this version here.
It's so funny because I think they would do it before New York would. That's the sad part about it. That's like when you told me about it and I saw it, I was like, because I bet you was like, this girl came all the way from Atlanta. First off, when it said Cinderella Enchanted, I said, "Ooh, that's the Whitney and the Brandy Cinderella." And my son, I was hopping around here, impossible.
Yeah.
He was training me. And, he because he was like, "Mom, I really don't want to see Cinderella." He's 13. And when he was like sitting in the audience laughing, but I was just sitting there the whole time thinking, why haven't New York done this yet? Why hasn't any of the bigger markets done this yet?
Why did they do a revival when this one already existed? Didn't bring this one, but created a whole new version.
Exactly. And here's the weird part. Brandy, because I think Brandy lives here in Atlanta. Why can't you find the Brandy and Whitney version? Disney just released it a couple of last year?
It's been out, apparently.
It's been out, but Disney like re-released it.
Yeah.
I was
the movie.
Yes, right. And then they're saying like, Anointing, what was her Anointing Nika Rose. She's the first Black princess. No, she ain't. Brandy is.
Brandy was, yeah.
Brandy was. I still, like I said, I'm still that 90s baby. Brandy was. But
have you seen the pictures of Brandy with Anika and I think
Haley?
Anika definitely was at the Little Mermaid.
Yes, I remember seeing that. Yeah. I haven't seen it. We gotta look it up. We gotta, but it's like, I don't know. I don't want to get really I don't want to get political, but I just want to make the viewers know who are watching this that African Americans have a strong role in theater, musical theater, and performance. And it doesn't need to be ignored or washed down with the other Black music that we have.
Right. And they want to put us in a box and just keep us in. Now they're getting better. After 2020 and everything that happened, I am getting a lot more roles. And that was another thing with this agent. When I started with him, I gave him a wish list of roles I wanted to play.
Yeah.
And they weren't all Black roles.
Right. Why do they have to be?
They were lead roles and that have never been played by Black women. I'm like, I want this, this, and this. And don't you know, he has been getting me those auditions.
Nice.
I've been getting so many auditions from roles that are not traditionally Black women.
Right. Nice.
Because he believes too. He's like, oh God, yeah, you could do that.
Well, I mean, it's about the talent, because when you close your eyes, all you're going to hear is that voice. I mean, musical theater puts a different spin on it because but at the end of the day, it's the voice.
Yeah.
And it's it's the connection, then the sight comes later. And it is all these different elements and senses that goes into musical theater. That's why it's called musical. Ooh. So anyway, LaDonna, I have, I got one other question. So how has the experience been for you to carry on the legacy of Whitney Houston as an African-American in the role of the Fairy Godmother?
I mean, every night before I go out, I always have a ritual, any show. I do a little prayer. And I always have to thank Whitney. Because I grew up, Whitney was the star for me. Like,
yeah,
I wanted to be Whitney Houston when I was little.
Right.
I'll never forget doing a concert and my brothers came. It was with my show choir. He goes, "Oh, you even crinkle your nose like Whitney does." Sometimes. And I'm like, he's like, "You got the Whitney crinkle." And I'm like, And I even remember I was walking to my apartment in Brooklyn the day she died.
Yeah.
My friend Curtis called me and he was like, "LaDonna, have you seen it?" I was like, "What?" He goes, "Whitney's gone." I said, "What?"
What? Well, she went around the corner.
Where'd she go?
Yeah, that was my
dead. And I was just like, what?
Yes. Mhm.
Because it was one of those things. And this is the kicker about it was I would have expected that news years before, but
Mhm.
she had just been making that comeback.
I know, with the gospel on the gospel track. Yeah.
I didn't know my own strength. She had
Mhm.
started to turn it around. That Sparkle remake came out.
Yes, yes, because she
Was
died like
doing
right after that. She died during the taping of that.
no, they finished it.
They
She
finished it?
was it was finished.
Okay.
She was on her because she had done Oprah by then, that song I Didn't Know My Own Strength.
Right.
Remember
Mhm.
her singing that on Oprah's show?
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
was doing all the
Yes.
circuits,
Yes.
and it was the Grammy weekend.
Mhm.
And it was just like, I think that's what made it harder because we were thinking she had gotten over it
She
that
was trying,
song,
yeah, trying to make a comeback. Yeah.
and she was gone. And I'm just like, I don't know if you saw the latest movie that came out. It's called I Want to Dance with Somebody.
No, no.
I saw it when I was in Chicago with one of my college girlfriends, and it was actually really good.
Really?
But
Okay.
by the end, just sobbing because it's just like,
Such a talent.
if she had came along in this day and age where there's a little bit more freedom with your sexuality,
Exactly.
we might not have.
Yeah.
She'd still probably be with us.
Right. Well, I mean, these days anything goes. So it's
I
like,
know. So I'm just like,
you
and
know,
they did not shy away from that in that movie. That's why I'm like, oh, okay,
right.
movie.
Right.
But yeah, I every time I do it, I thank her because it's just thank you for this legacy and giving little Black girls like me something to look forward to.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like Kathleen, who plays the queen, was at the grocery store right before our show on Thursday and saw a little girl. She heard a little girl singing and she saw, and she was like, she's like, because she was singing really well. She's like,
Mhm.
looking for the parent. She's like, how long has she been singing? He's like, she just does it all the time. No one in our family sings. She just picked it up. And she's like, and she was a little Black girl. And Kathleen
Yeah.
said, you know, we're doing Cinderella down the street. You should bring her.
Nice.
And the father's like, really? And she's like, yeah, we got a show in like an hour. Go, if you have time, go home. She can wear a little princess dress. They come dressed as princesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she showed, and they came.
Oh, nice.
And we happened to have the camp kids were there. So we went to the theater and were autographing the camp, and she was still there. So we got to autograph her thing and we took pictures with her. And I said to her, she was just like, you sound so great. You're such a great singer. And I'm like, I heard you're a great singer. She started singing. I'm like, oh, I see you're coming for the fairy godmother's job. She goes, I could never be the fairy godmother. I'm like, oh, yes, you could. You can always be the fairy godmother.
Right.
And I was talking to her father, and he was just like, look, I'm like 42 years old. I've never been to a play in my life. And he's like, he's just like, you came out. She looked at me and she said, Daddy, they look like me. And
No.
and she had on a red princess dress. It almost looked like it could have fit into our ball. Like, and she was so excited. And that's why I do this, because you never know who's watching you. And when I was at that
Yeah.
soulful
Yeah.
restaurant, they were like, we have grandchildren. And one of the guys who has the food truck for the restaurant, he's like, I have a daughter who would love to see this. And I've been looking for something. I want to take her to see something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got some brown folks doing some stuff
Thank
right down the
you.
street.
Exactly.
And so I'm hoping that those people get here like this week. And our marketing person, she said she was going to, I think she went to the restaurant Saturday to go talk to him.
Honestly, it's like they should. I mean, the tickets aren't that expensive. I
They
mean,
are a little bit though, but they have some deals
well,
too.
they have some deals, especially because where I bought my, like, I was like, I know how to look at a
Yeah.
theater where to get my seats, but but if you want to get something a little cheaper, the theater is so small.
Yeah.
You really, they're good seats. My point being is that all seats are good seats, and to your point, you never know who you're going to influence, because even me, fat old lady, when I did the show this past year with Ballet Ethnic Urban Nutcracker, one of the security guys was there, young guy, and he was just sitting in the audience, just looking at all these Black dancers, all these brown dancers on stage. And he came to me, he goes, "Where did this come from? Where did y'all come from?" And I was like, "Dude, you're in Atlanta." I mean, he said, "I've never seen anything like this." He said, "I really want my daughter to, be in something like this. I have a young daughter." I said, "First off, bring her. Second, and I'll point to the founders of the company. You need to go talk to them." I said, "Because they're all about Black and brown people, even yellow people, or whatever you call yourselves, wanted to come into the space. You can be big, you can be short, you can be tall, you can be this, you can be that. They're always going to find a place for you. You can be old." I mean, we had like Waverly created a piece for the elderly, the elders to come in on.
Yeah.
So there's always a place. And like you said, when you're out there, you never know who you're going to influence.
And we exchanged numbers. I'm gonna text him because I'm like, "How's she doing?" Because he texted, apparently she's been being bullied and she's homeschooled now. And I'm like, "See you," and so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make sure I stay in touch with her and encourage her to do that. I also do work with Broadway Inspirational Voices is a choir that I'm part of in New York City. Funny enough, who just sang at the White House for the Juneteenth
Who did?
celebration.
Did they
Broadway
really?
Inspirational Voices. I was so hurt I couldn't go because I was here.
That's right. You was telling me that a couple of weeks ago. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, but
that's right.
President Biden is serious about this. So they had a Juneteenth celebration and brought all these artists in and did it on the White House lawn.
Yeah.
And my choir I'm so proud of my choir because they were the only people, and we had celebrities up there. They got that whole lawn on their feet.
Right,
President
exactly.
Biden and Vice President Harris jumped up and everybody was jumping and getting
because it's to me, it's one of the most beautiful things. I just remember seeing Carmen for the first time with Dorothy Dandridge and God rest his soul, Harry Belafonte. And we do more than a shuck and a jive. I mean, just to hear those voices, and it's so amazing. It's so amazing. It's, us doing, African Americans doing musical theater is one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard and seen.
Right. And that's the choir started that way because Michael had a lot of friends dying from AIDS because he started the choir 27, 28 years ago.
Right.
Height of the AIDS crisis, and gathered all his Broadway friends and said, "Let's do something. And we need an outlet to uplift people because we were losing so many people."
Exactly.
And that has led to Broadway Inspirational Voices, that we don't just we do gospel music, but we also do musical theater, but our way. But Alan, who's now in charge, was like, "But we have to, at the White House, go back to our roots for inspiration." And they just did a 3-song gospel set.
Nice.
Turn the White House out.
Right.
We will be back at the White House, and I'm gonna make sure I'm at it back next time. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. When I teach my pop rock classes, I tell my students the first day, I'm like, "I just want you all to know that all pop rock music came from Black people."
Exactly. Know it, own it, and be done with it.
I'm not
know it, own it, and be done with it. Yeah.
Rock and roll, everything. Roots are from Black people.
Right.
You need to know this.
Exactly.
You need to know who Sister Rosetta Tharpe is, because Elvis Presley and all these, they get
it from there. They get it from there.
Sister Rosetta Tharpe, a queer Black woman,
right,
at the time, which is unheard of, especially in the gospel
just
realm.
Being a Black woman, period, being able to do something other than sing gospel,
but influence rock and roll. All your great rock and roll guitar players,
right?
Look at her.
Exactly.
But y'all don't know this.
Yes, we got to know it.
And so I'm just like, I'm looking forward to the day where Black people are even more on the stage in New York, especially, and not just being the Black person.
Right.
Just let me be the person in the show.
Exactly. Right.
So that, don't get me started because I will preach on that. But no, that is my mission. And I am really now going for these shows that are not just for Black people. I don't care. I will show up at an audition like, y'all gonna find a spot for me.
Right. And it ain't gonna be sweeping the floor.
Woo!
Or being the seamstress in the back. Yeah.
Yep. Caroline was my one thing. I'm like, now this show I will do.
Right.
Cause she is a complex woman, but there's no going with the wind here. We're not doing that.
Yeah, no. There's so many other options. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I can't do these slave shows. I cannot do it.
Hey, look.
I want to be a goddess. When's Hercules coming?
You know? I know, right?
Like, because his other stuff is not hitting.
There's other stuff that's out there that you can do. Yeah. I would like to see another Black Carmen.
They did do Carmen Jones 2019. Was it 2018 or 2019 classical stages in New York City?
Oh, don't tell me that. Are you serious?
It was Anika in that? I'll have to look it up. It was so
it's not still running, is it?
Oh no. It only ran for a couple of months. It was amazing. Was Anika Noni Rose Carmen? I gotta look it up and see if I can find the clips. It was so good, and I was hoping that it would get a Broadway transfer. It was so great seeing that piece.
And that's what a lot of people, and girl, I'm not gonna hold you, but that's what a lot of people don't realize. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of African American plays and playwrights off Broadway. Because sometimes when I go, I specifically go out and look for them when I'm in New York. But we're talking about on the main stage down on 42nd Street, where you getting how many theaters are down there? 10?
There's about 15 Broadway houses at least.
15 Broadways. Yeah, I'm talking about on that strip, on those Broadway houses.
The houses, the major houses. The major houses. In the past year, we now have two more Black Broadway houses named after.
Yes.
They named one after James Earl Jones.
As they should have.
And then Lena Horne. And I was at the Lena Horne naming. Yeah. The theater where 6 is currently is the Lena Horne Theater now.
Okay.
And the James Earl Jones, I think, used to be called the Golden. It's the theater on 44th Street or 45th. But no, now we have that to be added to August Wilson, because August Wilson, I want to say, was the first Broadway house to get a Black name. But now we have 3. And the 2 just happened.
Wow. They need to name one after Paul Robeson, but we'll take what we can get.
I wonder why they haven't done him yet. I mean, it was nice that James Earl Jones got his while he's still alive.
While he was still alive, right.
That was nice that he got that one named after him while he's still here. But the Lena Horne one, that was a beautiful. I could only be there for part of it because I had actually rehearsal with Broadway Inspirational Voices to go to.
Right.
But it was a beautiful ceremony. They had a little block party.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, there's some things happening, but not enough.
Right. Well,
it's the off Broadway. You're right, because they just did at that same theater something called Black Odyssey. It was phenomenal. I just did a show. The show I closed, White Girl in Danger, was written by Michael R. Jackson, who just won the Tony last year for Strange Loop on Broadway.
And he did.
He did another show that that's the show that I closed right before I came here. And so there are a lot of great writers out there that are doing beautiful work. Alicia Keys has a musical coming.
I heard of that.
Callbacks for that, called Hell's Kitchen. It's going to be at the Public, and hopefully that'll get to Broadway. Then hopefully I can get in on that.
Right.
Like there are lots of shows in development that I have had auditions for, and it's so nice to go in somewhere and see a Black
playwright or
Black playwright, director, choreographer, because they understand. You hope.
Well,
now not always, but
LaDonna, is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers who are tuning in today?
Just If you've never
Now,
been to a
I
show,
just
go
want
see
y'all
a
to know
show.
this is how she and I carried on when we were in Portugal. I just want y'all to
Okay,
know
in the
that.
morning, and you know I was not awake because I am not a morning
Exactly.
person. But we
Right.
had to get to that breakfast before it shut down at what 10:30.
Exactly. Right. So okay, so
Yeah,
anything else you'd like to share with our viewers who are tuning in today?
just go see a show. Even if you don't know anything about it, go see it. Go see. Please support the live arts.
Mhm.
You know, there's the writer strike happening. Support the writers too, though, because
Yeah.
arts are very important.
Mhm.
And you know, the pandemic was very scary
Mhm.
because usually, unfortunately, the arts is one of the first things to go to.
That's true.
But the arts are what you need. Any time of social unrest, injustice, you have to look to the arts because that is
Mhm.
how we get the word out and
Mhm.
speak up about things. It's not people just like, I hate musicals. People just walking around singing for no reason.
Right.
You're not going to the right musicals.
Exactly.
You have to get out of, I know The Wiz because I saw the movie. Yes, The Wiz is great.
Mhm.
Go support The Wiz when it comes to your town. So when they go to
Exactly.
Broadway, please, so I can get in it. Go support that. But go see other shows. If you see something playing near you, go to theater website, look at that cast list.
Yes.
If there's some chocolate drops in there,
Go
go
see
support
it.
them. Because you don't understand how important it is and how happy I get when I see a smattering of us there.
Exactly.
Because I have had discrimination happen to me in a theater in New York City.
Yeah.
Where I had to tell them about themselves because it's happened more than once. Like I was at Greece, of all shows, Greece. But my friend and I, we were going to see a friend of ours, and then we were in standing room, and this woman, and you know what color she was, turned around and said, "I hope you guys know how to act at a theater." And I said, "We know how to act better than you." And then, as a matter of fact, we do this for a living. Do you know how to act in a theater?
She said that to you?
Oh yeah. There's a great article. I'll send that to you. Dominique Mirabeau, great playwright. She has a whole article about being Black while theatering.
Yeah,
The
please send that.
microaggressions that happen to Black people in theaters. That's why when her shows and a lot of these new playwrights have gone into putting an insert into their playbill saying, we want you to respond. Please talk back to us. And not like, you know, the stereotype of people at Black people at movies, like always talk to the movie screen. But in theater, there is a certain part that we need to feel the energy from the audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I am very
even
vocal
if
when
it's
I'm at a show.
or I mean, yeah,
I'm very vocal at a show because I know I need that energy.
Yeah.
And that so playwrights, Black playwrights have been putting in inserts saying, this is a communion, this is a time, a revival for us to be ourselves
and come together.
Police Black bodies. This is what we want. This instead of this is not opera where you're like,
right,
oh, I should not golf
right,
clap.
right.
We need a response because we are live people. We're not a TV.
It's a live performance. That's the whole purpose of it being live.
So yeah, that happens a lot. And I'll tell you this: when I go to the show, it's not us that's acting up. You hear me?
No. I mean, I remember, was it you that was telling me that the ladies that showed up at your show all dressed in red and they were talking back and forth to you while you were performing?
Yes. And they selling those light up crowns. They kept selling out of them.
Yes. And people need that. And what people don't realize is that about the arts and the performing arts, it's the true humanity of a society. It's the true humanity. That's what, if you're going to find humanity, you're going to find it in the arts.
Right.
And that's what, you know, I'm sorry. I can go on that. Okay.
It's always been there. It started with the Old Globe, Shakespeare. The whole tradition of throwing tomatoes, that was some way of them talking back. But that is what we need in live performance. We want people to respond to us.
Yes.
It's just like church.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even when I'm dancing, I want people to go, woo, clap when you do something great, or laugh when you're doing something funny. I mean,
so do not be afraid.
Yeah,
Do not be afraid to
ask
go
your
to theater
more,
and be
yes.
yourself.
And be yourself. Bring your personality to the
It's
theater.
like, now don't bring a full meal. This is not the movies.
No,
The number of
no.
times people are like rappers, and as I said, it's not us doing it that I've been
Right.
witnessing at these shows. So I'm like, this is for everybody.
Yes.
It's still theater. We can hear and see you.
Exactly. Right. And we're trying to focus whenever, we're doing what we're doing. And I said we, but hopefully
Yeah.
my Nia get me back up there. Okay, LaDonna, it has been a pleasure chatting with you today. LaDonna, thank you so much. Thank you so, so much. I know your schedule is busy. I'm glad you managed to, manage me into it. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. We had a great time.
Thank you.
You have a good time with this wine this week.
I know, absolutely. TAVEL, Domaine, Maby. Okay, so to our viewers, to our beloved viewers, we love to hear your thoughts on the chat regarding the topic. If you have any questions, please comment down below. You may also visit our website at www.pieimports.com. Also, we're launching our wine and culture website, which is wine and culture at galaxysites.org. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you, LaDonna.
Thank you.